Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We're actually doing a holiday survival guide for the next 2 weeks. We'll be taking the topics that will get you prepared, get you ready, and get you through the holiday season. So we're getting all seasonal, we're getting ready for the holidays. I hope you're excited for those sessions. And first of all, today we're kicking off with this really important topic of emotional first aid and self-care. Now it's incredible because the holidays are meant to be about joy, happiness, excitement, love, family. But actually juggling all those dynamics can sometimes make us overworked, run down, overwhelmed, or maybe just a little bit tired. So today, I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm joined by the author of Emotional First Aid, Guy Winch. Not only has his TED Talk been viewed by over 4 million people, he's also a licensed psychologist and has some great tips for us. So Guy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I was introduced to your TED Talk. I watched it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
And I recommend that all of you watched it if you haven't watched it already. And this theme of emotional first aid, why don't you introduce that concept to us and explain to us what it means?
So it's an interesting thing, you know, because when we get injured physically, when we get a cut or a scrape or a cold, we're really proficient at knowing what to do. We can tell, oh, this cut doesn't need stitches, we just need some ointment and a bandage. But when we get injured emotionally, which happens with the same regularity, if not more, as we do physically, when we experience failure or rejection, or we're feeling lonely, or we feel guilt, we have no idea whether we're injured, if so, what we can do about it, how to soothe the pain, how to make sure the wound doesn't become infected. We are so far behind. And so the whole idea of emotional first aid is to be able to become literate in what the wounds are that happen to us emotionally and psychologically, and the science-based approaches we can use to heal.
Unbelievable. Definitely very true. We are proficient in dealing with the body. How do we switch that to the mind? How do we switch that to these emotions? And you talk about some of these emotions, obviously, in your book and your TED Talk. And which ones are the most common during the holidays, do you feel? Like, it's meant to be a time of joy, but we find that actually these times can be extremely stressful. Which ones do you think are the most common challenges people deal with?
Look, in general, the most common are, I think, rejection and failure and loneliness. During the holiday, you would have to add in guilt as a nice... that's a very common thing during the holiday, simply because there are too many relatives, there are too many people. Mum and dad are both divorced and remarried, and the spouses, mum and dad, are divorced and remarried. Those are 4 people, 1 day of Christmas, 8 nights of Hanukkah. There's an advantage there, but it's still very difficult to cover everyone. Yes. So guilt comes up.
Definitely. And this topic has come at a really ideal time. Like, I'll show you what I saw on social media this morning when we were talking about this. So I saw this post. It says, only a few more mental breakdowns till Christmas break, guys. We've got this. You know, this is what people are talking about. I saw this go viral earlier today. And so it's definitely something that needs talking about. It's definitely something that's on the top of everyone's mind.
Except now, I kind of think, sorry to interrupt, that the mental breakdown is more likely to happen over the Christmas break rather than before.
Right, okay.
So that's my... thought about how that goes.
So how do we start by managing holiday stress, right? I'm reading some of these answers here. People are stressed about getting gifts. The one you just mentioned, people are scared about family dinners, right? That's a top one for guilt and failure. How do we start by preparing for that stress and managing it?
So the first thing we need to do is manage our expectations. We tend to remember the holidays and these family visits, if we're doing them, as blissful and lovely, and there's lovely music playing in the background and everyone looks terrific and there's snowflakes, and we don't remember all the fighting and the feuding and the tension, that the meal got burnt, that grandpa acted out, that all the bad things that happen. So it's really best that we set the expectations and be realistic about them, not be negative, but just be realistic in terms of, well, this is how it is usually during the holiday. And in looking at that, what are the things that typically work best over the years? Keep them. And what are the things that typically don't work that well over the years? And those maybe find a way to switch up in terms of traditions, in terms of what you're doing.
So actually the starting point is just to reassess our expectations, because I think we all have this movie view. Now, this is my first Christmas in New York this year since I've moved here. I'm very excited about it. But we have this movie version of what it looks like to live in Christmas time. Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see whether this fits your previous versions, or the New York version is better than, or not as good as. I mean, it'll be an interesting comparison for you.
Now, I wanted to talk to you because this is one that I've experienced in Christmas times, many times. I know many of my friends have. It's dinner time. You're sitting down across from family members. Like you said, family dynamics can be very different. and everyone's talking about what they've achieved that year. People are talking about successes. You know, some people have some awkward points, and you're almost more worried to say anything because you don't want to upset anyone. At the same time, you feel like you've got to make a stance. How do you manage tough family dynamics, especially when guilt and failure are kind of sticking out?
So, for example, if you know that there's a cousin at the table who just lost their job this year, so maybe the topic of what did we achieve this year should be skipped. Right. Maybe the topic should become what were we looking to achieve next year. Yes. In other words, tweak it so that it's sensitive to the people who are there. This person just had a terrible breakup. So, again, what did we achieve this year? But hopes for next year can be a better option. Or choose one thing this year you're really proud of or you're really pleased about. Even people who've had a difficult year can usually find one. But be aware of what's going on with people around the table when you're suggesting these kinds of topics, because it might, hurt someone.
And what do? We all have that one person in our family who's not aware, right? Everyone knows who that is. If you're sitting watching at home and if you're not slightly thinking, then that person's you, right? There's someone there in your family who's not aware, who says the wrong thing at the wrong time. And when they say it, you just think to yourself, why did you say that? Because you know it's going to affect someone. What do you do in that scenario when you're aware, you feel you're aware, but there's someone in the family who's kind of pushing the wrong buttons and people are being affected?
So look, when somebody's really, really unaware, then I would use the same technique you use with a toddler, which is distraction. Oh, look over there, there's another toy. So I would just change the topic, and I would just have maybe an idea or two about topics that you can just throw up in those moments and go, interesting about that, but I just read such and such. Nice. But find a way to take it away from that. The other person will appreciate it. Whoever's toes are getting stepped on will appreciate it. The person who's unaware won't necessarily be aware because they're not, so that's fine. They won't feel insulted. So just be diplomatic and subtle about just redirecting.
Definitely. Really practical answer. I like that. Treat them like a toddler. We've got a great question coming in from the audience. To what extent does the use of social media make us more susceptible to psychological injury?
In all kinds of ways. People are, we used to be able to get rejected by one person at a time. Now you put on the pictures of your new baby, and if 400 of your 500 friends didn't like it, you actually feel rejected by 400 people at a time. Yes. And people actually get upset about being ignored on social media and all its platforms. They actually look to see who's liking, who's not, but I liked hers, why isn't she liking mine? Or I tried to connect with him on LinkedIn because I need the reference for the job and they're not responding. We actually get our feelings hurt through social media quite a bit. And that's without actually all the bullying that's going on social media, or all the put-downs, or all the arguments, especially in the political season. People were going at it. So it's just a whole new frontier for us, but it's a mass frontier. We can actually get, it's 1,000 cuts, it's not just one. And so it's something that can really work in a negative way, albeit it can work very positively as well. I'd say just one other thing about it. There's research about the fact that Facebook, for example, can make some people feel more depressed or more lonely, but it's actually nuanced. That's the general thought people have. It's incorrect as a general thought. More specifically, it depends on how you use social media. If you're a very passive user, let's say of Facebook, and all you're doing is looking to see how great the lives of everyone you know are, you'll feel bad in comparison. But if you're an active user, if you're going to respond, if you're going to post, people tend to feel that much, much less. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is, if you're going to use social media and it makes you feel bad, use it actively. Participate, post, respond, and you'll tend to feel much more connected as opposed to I'm watching from the outside in.
Got it. Stop being a lurker. Right, just stop watching, stop lurking, actually get involved in the conversations.
Yes,
and it can change
especially if it makes you feel bad to lurk. Yeah. Sometimes we're tempted to do it regardless, but if it's making you feel bad, don't. Be active.
Cindy, what about when you prefer just to be on your own and you're expected to get together with everyone?
So, there's a fundamental difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is an objective state. It's you prefer to be by yourself or you are by yourself. Being lonely is a very subjective state. You can be among 20 people over the holidays and still feel emotionally disconnected from them, and you actually feel lonely. And so if you prefer to be alone, and that's fine for you, then it's just about managing other people's expectations or other people's interest in seeing you and them not feeling bad for you because that's your preference, if indeed that's what makes you feel good. And for some people it does. But if you're feeling lonely when you feel alone, and if you're and if you want to be alone because you haven't been invited and you don't want to put yourself out there in case you get rejected again, that's a different story. And then I would actually take some kind of action, because feeling lonely, if you're feeling lonely during the holidays and you're alone during the holidays, it's a very difficult feeling.
Definitely. So what would you suggest for people who are, like you said, beautiful answer, absolutely love that, the difference between choosing to be alone and being lonely. For those who are actually experiencing loneliness during the holidays, what are your self-care methods?
Here's the trick about loneliness. What loneliness does is it distorts our perceptions, and it makes us really think that the people around us, the relationships we do have, are not worth as much, that the people who are close to us don't really care about us. It's an actual distortion in our perceptions, but when we're lonely, we truly believe it. We're really convinced. We'll say, wow, that person hasn't contacted me in 2 months. Now, we won't think about the fact that we haven't contacted them either. So we just tend to see things incorrectly. You have to overcome that. You have to understand that that's a bit of a distortion, and then take action and reach out to people. People don't reach out because they're convinced they won't get a response because people don't care about me. But that's a distortion. If you reach out and you do it positively, with a smile, not, hey, I haven't heard from you in 2 months. Well, they haven't heard from you either. Don't be aggressive. Just be pleasant, be polite, be upbeat. I know that's a difficult thing to put on when you're feeling lonely. But try it, and especially it's easier to do in writing, because put a smiley emoticon there and suddenly you're smiling, even if you can't do it in person. But be proactive. Say, hey, what are you doing for the holidays? I'm around. Would you like to get together? Reach out to people, and you'll be surprised that you'll get many more responses than you thought. And it will reaffirm a little bit that it's true, it is a distortion. It's not that people don't care. It's that I've been isolating. I haven't been reaching out as much as well.
Oriana, my parents make it very clear on a regular basis that I am an immense disappointment to them. It has become very difficult to deal with them, let alone invite them to my home for the holidays. How do we deal with those challenges that have kind of been long drawn? So maybe someone's watching this today going, Guy, I needed you 10 years ago, in my life. Like, how does that happen when you've got some of these long drawn challenges that have been there for holidays upon holidays? What can we do in that scenario?
So look, there are a lot of times these old dynamics that are very much entrenched. So she mentioned one. Her parents think she's a disappointment. I'm assuming she does not think she's a disappointment, but her parents have different expectations for the life they wanted her to lead than the one she chose to lead. And that hasn't obviously been fully dealt with because that's still lingering. Is it a difficult thing? Then how do I invite them to my home? It's tricky, but in certain situations, and I don't know the circumstances, in certain situations you can invite people to your home and you can set certain ground rules for it. You can say, we're having a themed Christmas this year. It's a positive Christmas. We are only looking at the positive. We are only thinking about the ways in which we are blessed. We're not thinking about the negative. That's our theme. Please respect it. You can send out that kind of announcement.
I like that.
Or you balance it out with the auntie and the uncle who are so ravingly fans of yours that they will balance out any negativity your parents have, or they will go to bat for you if your parents do have the negativity. So you have to be a little bit sophisticated, but this is what I was saying earlier. Think through clearly what happens and find ways to tackle it. Now, if, for example, it's difficult to invite your parents for a meal because they'll come for 2 days and that's too long to register their disappointment, invite them for dessert. Invite them for something much shorter. Have one of the kids prepared a little show for us, which we're going to be watching for the entire time you're here, so unfortunately we won't have time to talk. Great. Go, Tommy, go, and then you do that. But there are ways to get around it. You just have to give some thought to what are the tricks you can use to kind of deal with these kinds of situations.
Definitely. I love the idea of a themed Christmas. It's the same thing we do with themed parties and themed events. Why not do it with a themed Christmas at your home? How to handle the stress when you're trying to keep the holidays fun for the kids, but at the same time grieving for a lost one. And we realize that grieving for a lost one makes the holidays very difficult for people who had these cherished memories and experienced them. And I think this is a wonderful way of putting it. It's like you've got children or you've got family, you're trying to be happy, but there's a part of you that's feeling slightly disconnected from it all.
So first of all, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about whoever you lost. I'm sorry to hear it. But there are ways to handle that. And really what you need to do is find ways to ritualize and encapsulate the part about the loss. You don't want to go through the holidays without thinking of that person, but you don't want that thought to invade the entire proceedings. And so what you can do in those kinds of situations is think ahead, plan a ritual, a time you and whoever it is that wants to mourn can spend half an hour talking about the person, remembering them, going through photos of them, having a little memorial service, as it were, that happens before the festivities. And do it in such a way so that you've done that, you've really paid respects in that way. And then segue to the celebratory part. And the young children shouldn't be involved then, in that first part, or they can if they want, but if they're not too young. But the idea is that then, once you've done that, you put that apart and you literally do it in two sections. The memorial part, yes, the remembering part, the ritualizing of that, and the part about the celebration. And as long as you have a very clear split, people are aware of that, that's when we do that, then it's actually possible for people to kind of pack those feelings in and think about the future and move ahead to the celebration.
Definitely. And have you seen people actually, have you seen in your own time of advising so many people, have you seen families come together to do that?
Yes, absolutely, and many, many times, because this is a very common thing. Families have lost people, and often it's the first Christmas after the loss, in which case they're very much missing. And so families handle that in different ways. I'm suggesting some kind of ceremony or ritual before. You can also do it during. You can have some kind of keepsake. But the idea is to kind of encapsulate when is the time that we're talking about that, to try and keep it so that it doesn't invade the celebratory time, the festivities, because it is possible to have a split in that way, as much as you can, if it's not too fresh. If it happened yesterday, that might be a big ask.
Rainey, I get stressed about the whole monetization of Christmas. I feel pressure to buy when it's not about that for me. Have you ever met anyone who feels that way?
Have I met anyone who feels that way? There are masses who feel that way. Many, many, many people feel that way. Look, it's a very commercialized holiday, it's a very commercialized holiday season. Whether you participate in that is kind of up to you. Mm-hmm. Now, it could be that if you say to your family and friends, the gifts I'm giving are things that I made. Mm-hmm. Here are some seashells that I stuck together to a book cover, isn't that pretty? That's fine. If they will have to learn to appreciate it, because those are your standards. Mm-hmm. Some people come and for all my Christmas gifts, I've donated, trees to be planted and, wherever. So some people go like, I kind of wished it was a sweater, but the idea is people are allowed to do what feels right to them, and you have to follow the thing that's meaningful to you. The idea is make it meaningful. If what makes it meaningful is to buy a really expensive gift and surprise somebody and they'll love it, great. By all means do it. If what is meaningful is giving a donation, donating time, doing something else, getting everyone to go and paint a school, if that's what's meaningful, do that. And if people have judgments about it, then I would absolutely have the conversation, and that's a great conversation to have. Let's discuss the meaning of Christmas, or let's discuss the meaning of the holidays, and how you imbue that with meaning, and how I do, and let's find a compromise where we can both feel that it's meaningful for us. Mm-hmm. It's a great conversation to have.
And how many of these challenges actually come out more from a deep-rooted challenge of not being able to just be confident about what we value? Because this isn't a holiday season conversation. This isn't even a, it's not just around holidays or presents. This is about our challenge in being able to confidently value what we value when we're around other people. And from your psychology experience, where have you found that? How do we tip that balance between not worrying about what other people think and actually being confident about what we hold?
So it's interesting. How often do we, in a group setting, family setting, actually have that discussion? What do I find meaningful in life? What is valuable to me in life? What's valuable to you in life? If you ask yourself now, do you know your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your spouses? If you ask them that question, what do you value? Do you know what they would say? If you don't, clearly it's a conversation you should have. Yes. And people do not have those kinds of conversations, and we really should. First of all, because our values change, and what it was last year might be different. But boy, that would be really important, because it's a great way of understanding where people come from. Mm-hmm. So maybe the uncle who brought all these things, it's because to them the value of whatever it is that's related to that is so important, much more so than spending money on whatever gift. So we understand that for them it seems like, wow, that's a very meaningful gesture from them. We'll miss that if we don't know what their values are. So that's a hugely important conversation to have around the holidays.
Yeah, Jill says in that regard that a lot of the time we avoid that conversation because it could lead to conflict or debate. People are almost worried about what may come out.
I'm a little less worried about that one leading to conflict or debate because it's such a personal thing. It's like talking about taste. Well, I like chocolate and you like vanilla. There's not much argument to be had there. Well, fine, you like vanilla, I like chocolate. And I think values are very similar in that way. Mine are this, yours are that. I respect yours, you respect mine. We can explain why those are important, but we don't have to convince each other to endorse the other person's values. It's a matter of personal taste, personal thought, personal reflection. We just need to accept that those are the values of the other person and accept, like we're talking about taste, there are going to be differences. That's fine.
Okay, brilliant. How should one handle themselves if they're spending time with someone who is disrespectful? How do we do emotional self-help?
All right, so that's a complicated question because my first question would be, why are you spending time with somebody who's disrespectful? Number one. But number two, it involves two things. Number one is setting limits, because I don't know if the person realizes they're being disrespectful. Maybe they do and they don't care. Have you clarified that you're finding something disrespectful? Is there a generational gap where they're not interpreting something as disrespectful when you are? So that's a conversation to be had. But I would start with a conversation and say, when you do that, I find it a little disrespectful, whether because of the hand gesture that you use, the dismissive hand gesture, or because of how you talk about it. I just need you to know that it offends me. Please don't do it. And then if there's objection, you can discuss it. But a lot of the times we assume the other person should know. They must know we find that objectionable. They don't. There are a lot of people who don't think that way, who aren't realizing it. And if you've clarified, and they do, are you setting limits? Are you being very consistent every time that comes up, saying, I'm sorry, that's not acceptable for me? If it's not every time, then the message is, sometimes it is, so keep trying. Mm-hmm. So it needs to be every time.
Jasmine, this year I decided we would not travel since my kids never have Christmas at home since my daughter was born in 2012. I won't be able to see my stepdaughter until Christmas, but in a sense it extends the celebration. That's a nice way of looking at it as well.
And I would say to her, when you're doing something at home for the first time, start creating rituals. She has a 4-year-old. Start creating rituals that when you do it at home, even if it's intermittently, those are the rituals of how you do the holidays at home. Children love rituals, so this is the first year. Start rituals now. The kids won't know their rituals until they're repeated, but then they will, and they'll really they'll cherish them. They'll value them.
Great idea, especially with a 4-year-old. Is that the right time to start?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah? In your book, you say that it's important to have a medicine cabinet, right, for our emotions, not just for plasters for our wounds, but for our emotional wounds. How do you know which tools are right for you in that cabinet, and how do you start filling it up with a good cabinet rather than lots of random medicines like some people's cabinets end up being?
So when I have a headache, I can go to the pharmacy and there are probably 6 different pain medications I can choose from. I've tried them all, I know which one works for me, and that's the one I typically use. It's the same thing with psychological wounds. In my book, each chapter is divided into 2 sections. The second section gives you an array of treatments to treat the wound. Try them, see which works for you, see which you're more apt to do and to maintain. Those are the ones that should go into your cabinet. If there's one that doesn't speak to you, it's not as effective, that shouldn't. But I do provide an array of options so that you can choose, because you want to do the things that speak to you, that you're likely to keep doing, and that are most effective.
Tell us about some of the ones that you feel apply to the holiday seasons, or one that you think that everyone of our viewers, you've seen some of their questions, heard some of their questions, answered them brilliantly. Which ones do you think they should definitely have in their cabinet this Christmas?
So one of the things I talk about is, it's a season of rejection a lot, because, you didn't get invited to this Christmas party, or these relatives didn't want you to come over. We can feel rejected. And when we feel rejected, our first and our most, automatic reflex is often to feel self-critical, to think, well, what is it about me that they don't like, and maybe I'm not this enough, or I'm not that enough. And the idea is that, if you're feeling rejected over the holidays, what you need to do is actually to revive your self-esteem, rather than kick it when it's down, which is our habit. So usually, make sure that you're actually good to yourself, that you're not too self-critical. If you couldn't, get to every relative you wanted to get to and you're feeling bad about it, don't be too self-critical. Be objective and say, well, I really did try. And if you weren't able to get to these 2, make a plan that, I'll make it up to them in your new year by doing blank. Once you have that plan, the guilt will go away. So the idea is, most importantly, be aware of when your mood is changing, when you're feeling down, when something's nagging at you or bothering you. That's the sign that there's an emotional wound there, and maybe there's something you need to do to address it. But it starts with the awareness of, something happened.
And how much of all of this is the ability of us to just get out of our own head? Like from a psychology perspective, you know, how much do you find that a lot of this is just because we're too self-absorbed, we're too focused on our own feelings? And is there a need to get out of our heads about this? Or no, it's okay and it's important to deal with it properly?
I would phrase it a little differently. It's actually doing battle with our own head, because our mind can really mislead us in all kinds of situations. Like I talked about the distortion that we have when we're lonely, when we perceive our friends as not caring as much as they do. We need to be able to go into our head and argue and say, no, I know it feels like so-and-so doesn't care, but that's probably not true, because nothing really happened. They cared when we last spoke to them. Maybe you should reach out in a positive, affirming way and see if they respond. And, oh, look, they did. So, but you have to go and argue with the default assumption. If you feel rejected, withdrawal is what you want to do because you want to protect. It's not the right thing to do over the holidays. So argue with that and say, okay, well, did they mean to be rejecting, or maybe something happened with them and that's why I'm not hearing from them and I don't know. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't usually do this. To really go in and argue with our initial response, because sometimes our mind's initial response can not be the healthiest for us.
Definitely. And how do we strengthen that rational reasoning side that can have a mature conversation with our default wandering mind?
It's difficult to do. One of the things I try to do, both in my book and in my writing in general, is I provide a lot of the science, because, you know, I can show you, okay, here are the scientific studies that were done. I'll actually get in and tell you what the study was about, how it was done, so you can see how it demonstrated the thing it says it's demonstrating. And sometimes when you see, oh wow, well, this actually happened in the study and this is how people reacted, it must be real. I think it can be convincing. Oftentimes, when you hear something that's true, you kind of know it, even if it's a little bit in contrast to what you would like to think or what you're used to thinking. So sometimes things just resonate with people and they get that, you know, that kind of sounds true, even though I hadn't thought it.
Guy, are there any last messages that you really feel you want the audience to connect with, that you feel will help them? Anything that you feel you haven't shared that you'd love to share with our audience today?
Yes, just my one last piece of advice is, don't be on autopilot, because that's our tendency. We just kind of do the holidays and we're doing them. Be thoughtful about how you want to do the holidays, what works for you, what will make them even better, what will really avoid some of the pitfalls that you've encountered in the past. Be proactive, be thoughtful, plan, talk with the people you need to talk to, and make the holidays the way you want them to be. We're much more capable of doing that than we tend to think. We just go on a regular autopilot mode, and sometimes it can work and sometimes not. Let's tweak to make sure it works best.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm sure you'll agree that Guy's been absolutely brilliant, giving excellent practical advice, stuff that I think we can all do. And the whole aim of today's session was just for you to become more conscious as we dive into this holiday season, which is just coming up. I hope you feel well equipped. Guy, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Take care, guys. Have a great day. Happy holidays.